Hello! Alright, so I did manage to finish 5 books this month. Not months. I was aiming for more, but then I caught the flu. Do not recommend the flu because it killed my brain cells. So yeah, it was a little fewer books than I had anticipated. Like, I was on such a roll, and then I got sick. Yeah. But I did manage to finish these 5, and I am still really pleased with it. First up is the 7th? Yeah. The 7th Discworld novel, Pyramids. I've already posted my spoilerific review of this book. I love, like, the main reason I wanted to reread these novels is, Terry Pratchett, because these are the books that ignited my love of the English language. But I'm finding, because it's been a year since I last read some of these books, like, it's been a very long time since I read Pyramids last, but I'm finding now that I'm older, I'm getting more of the references that Terry Pratchett made in these novels. I'm getting more of the history, I'm getting more of the thought process, I'm getting more of the little jabs and, yeah, like the references, and I'm enjoying these books more. And I very much found myself enjoying this book because it is heavily inspired by ancient Egypt and the British Empire in a way, definitely, and by the literature and movies that were definitely being produced at the time, where well, at least in that inspired this book. I'm guessing this came out in 1989. But yeah, the themes explored in this book are: the greatest mathematicians are camels. Camels are the root of the entire storyline and why the story is. And also, let's just say the story is an Ouroboros. The ending ties in perfectly with the beginning and with the entire storyline. With one character in particular, it's magnificent. Next book I'm going to talk about is Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. Came across this book, ooh, shiny, look at the hologram. I came across this book on Waterstones. Haven't heard about it anywhere. It looked interesting, so, why not? Also, it's tiny. Very interesting book. It does talk about things that we need to keep in mind, always, eternally, no excuses. And I do feel that this would really help a lot of people who maybe don't quite understand what feminism is and what it isn't. Like, for some reason, there's a lot of people who think feminism is about hating men. And if you think that, I'm sorry, but you're kind of part of the problem. Feminism isn't about hating men. Feminism is about, the world is unequal and we would like it to be equal for everyone. Some points in this book, obviously I didn't agree with everything. And that's the wonderful thing about humanity. We don't all have to agree with everything. You don't have to agree with everything in this book to consider yourself a feminist. But it does really help, and I do believe that this does help quite a few people. Like, the notion that you can't be pretty and be a feminist, that you can't be heartbroken and be a feminist. The other 3 books I did manage to finish this month. Surprisingly, I read most of these while I was battling the flu, while I was being rather feverish. They're all Agatha Christie. So I found out that, especially when I have a fever and I just want to read, Agatha Christie really helps. I read The Murder on the Links, which is a Poirot novel. Oh yeah, okay, here's a problem with Agatha Christie novels. particularly Poirot ones. I was the Poirot series, Hercule Poirot series, since they first started airing here in Iceland. So I've seen the storylines played out. So for me, when I'm reading the Poirot novels, it's not so much of figuring out who did it. It's mostly remembering who did it. The joy for me comes in finding out how they did it and how it plays out in the novel, because obviously a novel is never going to be the same as a movie or TV series. So this is about a murdered man who called to Poirot to help him before he was discovered murdered, and shenanigans basically. Well, first off, I read this book when I had a fever, so actually talking about the book is a little bit trickier now, but at the same time I really don't want to spoil the book. I love these novels, they're just nah. The other two are standalones. So these were more enjoyable for me because I haven't seen any novels based on novels. I haven't seen any movies based on these novels, so I could read these books and discover the story. For example, The Man in the Brown Suit, which is about a young lady who comes to London after the death of her father to find a life for herself, and she is witness to the death of a man in a train station, and she sees a very peculiar behavior of a man in a brown suit who investigates the body and then disappears. So the young lady decides to go investigate. I'll have to say, there is a wonderful criminal in this story, and it does follow, like, when did this book come out originally? Oh yeah, first published in 1924. It does follow the trope of kind of Mary Sue-is, kind of a little bit, and like in the way that the main female character doesn't see herself as being pretty or beautiful, but at the same time she does realize that she is considered pretty. She just doesn't quite believe it, and everyone else does. And there's at least 3 marriage proposals to this young lady, and I'm like, okay. There is a heavy romance line that I can say that I was most enthused about, particularly not with the main love interest. I'm like, red flag, red flag, red flag. But as a whole, I did enjoy the story. It was an enjoyable read. And the last book that I managed to finish was The Secret of Chimneys. This time about a young man in, where were you? I think he was in South Africa. So he's in South Africa, is approached by his friend who asks him to go to England for a fairly easy errand. Shenanigans in memorials of a made of Eastern European kind of country. Let's just say that events draw in Scotland Yard, France Surrey, everyone's at this place, Chimneys. Again, wonderful characters. Secret royals all over the place. So the wonderful thing about Agatha Christie and her writing is that you can see where she's going, or at least make a fairly accurate guess. But at the same time, the journey is so much fun. It's like, I don't care. Yes, I do recommend this book. This book was fun. Then we come to the 3 books that I still have on my reading pile. I had high hopes about finishing these 2, but failed, and I'm yet again trying to finish, or at least read Normal People by Sally Rooney. I'm still on the same page. I'm still on just page 28. I can't quite get through page 28. I don't know what it is about the story. It's just, I'm not feeling it. So I can DNF it, which I'm not fond of. I can brute force my way through it, which I'm not fond of. Or I can put it back on the shelf and wait for the mood to strike, which I'm leaning more towards that. The current Agatha Christie novel that I'm reading is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, a Poirot novel. Well, let's just say I'm currently on page 214. I'm starting chapter 18. I know the storyline of this. This is one of the most famous and popular stories by Agatha Christie. So I know what the twist is. It's famous. What I'm enjoying is how she writes the story and how we get to the twist and how the reveals and just the clues throughout. I'm loving it. But at the same time, I mean, there's a foreword here by Laura Thompson, and there's a postscript as well, and I'm kind of leaning towards, because not everyone agrees with how the story has been portrayed, even by Agatha Christie. So, because apparently you can still read the book as being not what the narrator thinks. And I'm really looking forward to making up my own mind about it. And the third book and last on my reading pile is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. And I'm devastated I haven't had the mindset to finish this book, because I am on page 185. So about midway through. We are getting to the point where the story is picking up speed, and I'm loving this book. I love this book. I love the story. I love everything about this character. So I've read reviews where people aren't fond of how the story is set up, and I'm kind of getting the feeling a lot of those people haven't really gotten very far. I'm on part 4 out of what, 5 or 6? Yeah, I'm on part 4 out of 7. And I kind of get the feeling that the writers of those reviews that I read haven't got past like part 2. Because how the main character, how the narrator writes and what he notices, it is repetitive and it is very, very detailed. And at the same time that it matters, it doesn't. You don't need to memorize all the hallways and vestibules and statues and all that. You don't need to. What you need to keep in mind is that this is what the character thinks is important and what he remembers. And remembering is the part that this story is very much about. So I am loving this book, and I kind of need my brain to get into gear so I can finish reading it. Because I want to finish it, but at the same time I don't want to, because I'm enjoying it. So yeah, those are the books that I finished and the books that I'm still got on my reading pile. Let's see, in June, I mean, I do have my next Discworld novel to read. I believe it's Guards. And my TBR is so big, and I'm trying to be scheduled about it, but at the same time I'm a mood reader. I prefer reading where my mood takes me, so hopefully I will be reading more Agatha Christie. I am collecting her novels, and but then there's also so many other books to read. Life is good. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully there's something else on this channel that you may be interested in, and if so, do check it out. And otherwise, I'll see you when I see you. Okay, take care. Bless, bless.